The first thing we did was put together an advisory committee, and it's very broad spectrum. It's made up of about 77 people representing different aspects of the food system, from producers to processors to distributors to buyers to people in the health professional to county managers. And we're now having a series of regional meetings across the state to gather input and ideas. From those, we'll put together some working issues teams that will kind of drill down in various issues that emerge. We'll have a state summit March 2nd and 3rd, and it will result in a state action plan, and hopefully an ongoing process from then on to revise and rebuild and continue and implement. Part of the action plan will be a local toolbox for communities to have ideas and ways for them to enhance the local production and consumption in their own community.
If we don't take steps at the legislative level to try to protect some of these things and make sure that there's incentives and make sure we're funding the things that are already in place to take care of those, then we can spend as much time as we want in creating a farm to fork movement, and it'll be moot because the transportation costs that are going to be involved in trying to get the food from these distant rural areas into the urban areas is going to be too great.
I mean, our land use policy is crucial. You know, in this area, we've seen the land values get so far out of reach that there's no possible way that a farmer could afford to purchase the land, or that they could ever get the money back out of it. Cooperative Extension has been really great at helping support growers and give us better tools to promote ourselves more effectively.
Cooperative Extension is a part of the outreach of North Carolina State University and North Carolina A&T State University. So we have access to resources, groups of specialists, and lots of different programs and research that are happening all over the state and the southern region, and so we have the opportunity to bring those individuals to Cabarrus County. We had a horticultural specialist here on Friday to talk about what vegetable and fruit crops might grow best at our new incubator farm. What we're going to do is the term incubator farm is like a small business incubator, and we're going to grow farmers. We're going to help people that think they want to learn how to farm, learn how to farm. And they're going to learn about taxes and insurance, as well as the soils and seasonality of fruits and vegetables. We're going to teach them about all of those different things that they need to know in order to be able to learn how to make a living farming. But it's a very exciting time in order to be able to look at growing those farmers to develop those local food systems.
You know, it's becoming easier because people are starting to make the connection between the quality of their food and the quality of their life. You know, whether it's their health or their well-being, or, you know, time with their family, or, you know, how the pleasure that they get out of a meal, instead of it just being something to keep them from being hungry, it's something to, you know, it's just a little celebration 3 times a day.
I think the more people that get excited and get educated and get involved, the more traction we have and the more exciting things that'll come out of it.
I think probably, you know, in the future we're going to hopefully see more producers. We're going to see more farmers markets. We're going to see I'm hopeful that we see access to fresh local food in the schools, in the hospital, and a variety of different places that we really need people to be eating healthy, because ultimately it is a health issue.
Well, I would love to see policies implemented that would make it easier to make some of these connections between the producers and the consumers, and of course one obvious place would be the schools. I think everybody knows that the schools really face a big challenge in terms of offering nutritious food. Unfortunately, they're really stuck by a lot of the budgetary constraints, and they're forced to essentially run as a business. So if you're running as a business, you'll probably choose to sell foods that kids will eat, which may not be broccoli and Brussels sprouts.
I would love for North Carolina to make a commitment to a certain percentage that we would move towards of local food in our local venues. If we said by 2020 we wanted to have 10% of the food that we bought produced locally. I think it would do a lot for our local economy and job creation and farmland preservation and all of those things.
Farmers markets are great, but they rely on farmers being pretty close to market. So what I think we need is to start rebuilding some infrastructure. Things like if you are an attorney, studying up on agriculture and product liability law, so that you can offer that as a service to farmers in your area. If you're an insurance provider, looking at creating packages for these independent farms to have health care and retirement benefits so that we're attracting people into this profession that we might not be able to get otherwise. And if you're in packaging, if we can create cold storage locations, there are lots of things that are needed to create a distribution network and to create a thriving economy that allows the food to come from our local farmers.
Production to market was broken. In North Carolina, there's almost no place for local producers to get their animals processed and packaged in a way that would be appropriate for retail. We've lost all that infrastructure over the years. So it was seeing all that broken infrastructure in the middle. How do we do this here in North Carolina that kind of spawned this idea?
We had a meeting in October of 2007 where we had 175 agricultural producers come together at the request of the county commissioners, and they said, we've got 9,000 head of beef cows in this county. We know local food is going to be a concern. Right about that time, there'd been a big recall of meat around the United States, and people were really concerned about where their food was coming from. We can control somewhat, especially in the summer, our fruits and vegetables, but we don't have a lot of local meat produced. So the beef cattle producers said, we want to be able to provide our meat locally to consumers, and consumers really want that personal knowledge of where their food comes from. So we went, Max Cruz said, yes, we're interested in going after a grant, and we'll put in this harvest facility so that we've got local producers producing animals that will then be able to sell meat at the farmers market.
We really have got to band together and come up with ways where we can support each other instead of pushing each other away. And it's critical to our future. We're at a really important point right now to make some positive changes, or we won't have places to farm, we won't have people who want to, and we need to restore farming as a profession to its rightful place. We are growing food. Nobody can live without it.
If you would like to share your input about ways to build a local food economy here in North Carolina, then make plans to attend the Farm to Fork Summit in Raleigh. This summit will explore the outcomes of the 6 regional meetings, and working issues teams provide input about implementation and help produce a statewide action plan for building a local food economy. The Farm to Fork Summit will be held March 2nd and 3rd at NC State University's McKimmon Center. Registration is required. To register for the summit or to learn more about the Farm to Fork initiative and how you can be involved, log on to www.cefsfarmtofork.com.